What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Hope you guys are doing well on this Friday. We're counting down the hours before tomorrow's big game, Saturday night. Decide the division, decide the number one seed in the NFC. We know what's at stake. We know why tomorrow is so important. A lot of fun stuff going on there. But before we get there, I want to take a little bit of a detour and talk about one of the guys. And not just really one of the guys, but the guy in charge of this Seahawks team, because this team has experienced tremendous success in 2025, and that's regardless of what happens from here on out. And we got to talk about the architect of it all. And I think it's especially important that I talk about it some because as recently as 5, 6 months ago, I wasn't really sure how I felt about this guy. So when things break this well, I need to, at the very least, address it somewhere. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you guys about Sleeper. I'll tell you a little secret as well. It's more than just a platform for fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users have enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but there's so much more to it. You have live stats, real-time updates of all stats. You have a news feed with lightning-fast updates on players and teams, and a real-time chat where you can engage with other users about plays, performances, games, all kinds of stuff during the sports season. So download Sleeper, experience it for yourself, and don't forget to use my promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit, and pair that with their new promo that will give you a free $20 entry, no deposit needed. So you can use both of those promos. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and going. So check out Sleeper today and use those promos. We're talking about John Schneider, the general manager of the Seattle Seahawks here. Yeah, as recently as 5, 6 months ago, and especially like 11 months ago or so, I wasn't so sure about John Schneider. I even, right after the season ended last year, I made a video and I asked people, do you guys think John Schneider should no longer be the GM of the Seahawks? Now, if you go back to that video and you watch it now, and it's still up on my channel, so you still can, I say in that video that I think that John Schneider should continue to be the Seahawks GM. I did not want him to be fired. I did not call for his head. I did not suggest that it would be a good idea to fire him. But I did say in that video, I would understand if somebody felt differently. I thought it was a defensible position at that point in time. And here we are a year later, and I think he should win Executive of the Year. So the Executive of the Year is not a very high-profile award in the NFL. It has been around since the 50s, although it did take an extended break in the late 50s and 60s. But it's been around a while. It comes from Sporting News. It doesn't come from the Associated Press. So it doesn't get the same level of gravitas. But when you think about it, it probably should. The NFL is all about the executives that exercise power over rosters. So this award should probably be a bigger deal than it is. And I believe that with the 2025 season the Seahawks have just had and everything they've done over the last basically 365 days, John Schneider should probably be your Executive of the Year. And again, I wasn't somebody that wanted him fired last offseason, but I know that there were people who did. There were people who were starting to wonder. There were people who were starting to question him, and I understood it. I didn't think it was out of left field. I didn't think it was uncalled for. I got it. But less than a year later, I think he might be the best in the world at what he does. At the very least, based on the evidence provided in 2025. Now, real quick primer on the NFL Executive of the Year award. Like I said, it's been around technically since the 50s, but it's taken breaks. And if you want to know if a Seattle Seahawk has ever won it, the answer is yes. John Thompson won the award as the Seahawks GM in 1978. So I believe that was also the year we had a Coach of the Year. So that was a year where Seattle finally broke through a little bit and was mediocre rather than just bad. So they got a lot of accolades for that, so that's cool. But since then, no Seahawks executive, has won executive of the year. The years where you could have seen one would have been 2005. Art Rooney won with the Steelers. You had 2013. There was no Executive of the Year award. This is the year where you probably could have seen it. Didn't happen. 2014, Steve Keim of the Cardinals got it. So John Schneider has never won this award. And I think that with everything that has happened in 2025, he should win it this time around. And that should mean something coming from me, right? Like that means something coming from me. I'm not somebody who was always in this guy's corner. I'm not somebody who was always thinking that this guy knew what he was doing and that he was the guy who was going to get us back to the promised land and that he always knew what was up. And obviously he's made mistakes. But let's take a look at what he's done over the last year. So, understand, first of all, as we dig into this a little bit, we're not really going to be talking too much about decisions he made in previous years that might be influencing what's going on this year. This is a 2005 season, a 2025 season award. So things that happened in 2025 should be the things that influence who wins and who loses. So right off the bat, let me just say that things like drafting Devin Witherspoon and drafting Byron Murphy and signing Leonard Williams, those things, that's not really what we're talking about here. What we're talking about are things done in 2025. So let's start with the draft. Let's start with what he did in the draft for 2025. Look, it's not the greatest draft class in the world. He's had better draft classes in the last couple of years, if we're being honest. But it's a good draft class. It's a good start. Gray's able. He's not a great player yet, but there's a good foundation here. He's started every game for the Seahawks this year at left guard. He's been promising. He's been encouraging, and he does give us hope at that position, a hope that we have not had in quite some time. Nick Emanwari, been awesome. Maybe should win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I don't know if he's better than Schwezinger in Cleveland, but he should be on the short list. Now, Arroyo, not really much to say there. Not really doing much as a rookie. Second round pick, I'm kind of on that. Jalen Milroe, no comment, but you guys know how I feel, and he certainly hasn't done anything this year. Riley Mills, mostly a lost rookie season, but there's some promise there. I don't mind Riley Mills. Corey Horton, though, nice 5th round pick. 5 touchdowns plus a punt return touchdown this year. He's helped the team and been there for us when we needed a little bit of help at receiver before we got Shaheed. Robbie Oots, hopefully becomes a good fullback in this league. Right now, there's not a lot to say. And then you've got a few other guys that are just kind of either hanging out on the roster, hanging out on the practice squad, or they didn't make it. There's not much to say. 6th round, 7th round picks. I'm not going to sweat those too much. It's a pretty good draft. I'm not going to go crazy with it. I'm not going to say it's the greatest draft ever. I'm not going to say that this is why Schneider should be Executive of the Year, but the draft is fine. The draft is, at the very least, I would go so far as to say fine. Okay, that's not where Schneider really made his bones. Let's talk about where he made his bones. I'm mostly talking about free agency, right? So if you go to this article from Brady Henderson, kind of running down free agency, you get a feel for it. So just to summarize, Sam Darnold. Signed Sam Darnold to a budget deal, 3 years, $100 million. Very easy to get out of, very reasonable contract, and he's been very good. I understand that recent games have been frustrating. There have been moments where you've wondered if he's the guy, but you have gotten your money's worth and then some out of Sam Darnold. This has been a very, very good decision by John Schneider. This has worked out a lot better than I thought it would, and better than most people thought it would. You've got Cooper Kupp. It's been okay. Cooper Kupp's been fine. I think he's earned his money this year. Now, going forward, we're going to have a decision to make. It wasn't the greatest thing, but here's the thing. We had to sign a veteran receiver in free agency. It was going to be either Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, or there were maybe one or two other guys like that that you could have signed. We went with Kupp. And even if you think that Cooper Kupp hasn't been the greatest player in the world on the field, remember the value he's adding to JSN's career by being there to mentor him. What you're seeing from JSN this year, in part, stems from Cooper Kupp being a very good veteran presence for him. And what JSN will be going forward, some of it is coming from Kupp. So understand that Cooper Kupp is another one of those kind of bigger slot guys who ends up being able to do more than just play in the slot, kind of like JSN. So handing down that knowledge, handing down that experience has been valuable, even if you're not in love with what he's doing on the field. Josh Jones, I know he's just a backup, but he has proven that he is capable of playing effectively in the NFL still these last couple games, and we've needed it. Imagine if we didn't have Josh Jones these last couple games. Imagine if we had Stone Forsythe instead. You're probably in trouble. But Josh Jones has held down the fort. Ernest Jones. Remember, this guy was a free agent in the offseason. I don't think he technically hit free agency. I think we signed him before he hit. But Ernest Jones was going to be a free agent. We re-signed him to a 3-year, not even $30 million contract. Very cheap. Not even top 10. I don't think it's even close to top 10 contract for inside linebackers. He's been fantastic. We have by far the best run defense in football, and Ernest Jones is a big part of that. You want to give credit to other people? Absolutely. But Ernest Jones and the way he plays is a huge part of this run defense. And also, what he's doing in coverage is way better than any reasonable person could have expected. We are talking about a linebacker who was known to be a cover liability by even his supporters, having 5 interceptions and allowing 0 touchdowns. So Ernest Jones, that's been an awesome signing, a bargain signing. Jaron Reed, he's lived up to it. He's been fine. I understand that he's not putting up the big flashy stats, but you're not going to put up the big flashy stats when you're playing next to Murphy and Williams. Jaron Reed has done his job. He's been fine. And on the deal that he's on, it's a reasonable setup here. So I'm not saying it's a home run or something, but it's a good, effective signing. MVS, we struck out there. MVS, definitely a strikeout. 1-year deal, $5.5 million. Ended up not even really making the team. Ended up just pushing him out before the season started. But DeMarcus Lawrence, a massive home run. 3 years, $42 million. Now, in fairness, I thought it was pretty obvious this was a great signing, so I'm not going to sit here and say that John Schneider tricked everybody else into thinking this guy wasn't as good as he was. Like, we all knew that DeMarcus Lawrence, as long as he stayed healthy, was going to be awesome. But getting D-Law, 3 years, $42 million max value is pretty great, and he's exceeded expectations. He's been not just the great edge setter, but he's also gotten his mojo back as a pass rusher. So, great signing, and it's worked out even better than it initially seemed like it would. And that's the rundown of most of the stuff he did in free agency. I think there were 1 or 2 other very, very small moves, but that's the main body of work that he provided this offseason. This is why he should be executive of the year. These are not just great signings, but these are signings that could have easily gone the other way. None of this stuff, except for maybe DeMarcus Lawrence, was guaranteed to work out. Maybe some people would say Jones, but I don't even think Jones. There's a reason why the Rams gave Ernest Jones away, and there's a reason why the Titans immediately flipped him to us. There was a sense that between his injuries and his limitations as a player, he wasn't going to be worth the extension he wanted. We extended him, and he's been worth so much more than the extension we gave him. So it was a great free agency period, but it's not just about the players you signed. It's about the players you let go. And you go to Spotrac here and you take a look at the players that Seattle had last year, but then either cut, released, or let walk. Who do we really miss here? Excuse me. Like, look at this list right here. These are the guys who were Seahawks last year who were not Seahawks in 2025. Okay. Draymond Jones, he's been okay. Draymond Jones, he's done some nice things. He was in Tennessee for a bit, then he went to Baltimore. There's a little something there. But other than that, what are we really talking about with this list? Roy Robertson Harris playing for one of the worst teams in the league. He's been okay, I guess, but completely anonymous. Laken Tomlinson got benched. He wasn't even starting by the time we played Houston. Tyler Lockett got passed around a little bit. He clearly doesn't have anything left. Noah Fant made some nice plays, but he's ultimately not somebody who was going to be worth the money we owed him. Rayshawn Jenkins, just another safety. Artie Burns, just kind of floating out there as a vet min guy. Stone Forsythe, George Fant, Trevis Gibson, like Trey Brown. I don't think he even made the Rams. I don't know if he's played a snap this year off the top of my head. So there are no L's here, especially when you remember Draymond Jones kind of had to go so we could go get DeMarcus Lawrence. And I think we all know who we'd rather have there between Draymond Jones and DeMarcus Lawrence, even if you concede that Draymond Jones is a pretty decent player. DeMarcus Lawrence is just much better and more valuable. So there's really no mistakes made here. Now, a lot of this stuff was obvious. I get it. But you still have to make the decision. These are not decisions that get made automatically. John Schneider still has to do what he has to do to make the decision. So more successes here. And by the way, don't forget about these trades, right? Going back to March, traded Geno Smith, a trade that I didn't really like. And I will say, I'm still not a fan of the fact that we flipped the pick we got for Geno Smith on Jalen Milroe, who I don't believe in. But it almost doesn't matter because if we didn't trade Geno, we were going to extend him. And while I don't think Geno Smith is nearly as bad as he's looked in Vegas this year, age has clearly had a bigger impact on him quicker than I expected it would be. So moving off of him and pivoting to Sam Darnold has been the correct move. It's been very successful for us, and we're a better team for it. So being able to get a third-round pick out of that, even if the third-round pick doesn't work out, I mean, it's just a bonus. Trading DK Metcalf. And again, I want to stress this. We basically traded DK Metcalf for Elijah Arroyo. And I'm not an Arroyo believer, but clearly that's not even the important part of this trade. If we didn't trade DK Metcalf, we were going to extend him because that's how this works. If we had extended DK Metcalf to the kind of money he was looking for, which would have been at least very, very close to what Pittsburgh gave him, if not the same amount, what are we doing? What are we talking about? Are we excited about that? Are we happy that DK Metcalf is making $34 million a year? I mean, maybe we would have lived with it, but what if he does the same thing on our team that he did on that Steelers team a couple weeks ago in Detroit, where he basically ruins your whole season, maybe? Possibly. He may end up being the guy who ruined it all. So even if the Elijah Arroyo exchange, and again, some people say that we traded Metcalf for Nick Emanwari. I think that's a little too oversimplified when you consider the fact that we gave up a second and a third to get Emanwari, but value-wise, we basically traded Metcalf for Arroyo. That's how I look at it, and that's not my favorite, but even if we had spent that second-round pick on a punter, not paying Metcalf was clearly the right decision at this point. And I mean, I was fine with the Metcalf trade when we made it. I thought it was okay. I thought that it made sense, especially because of the new offense. And I was at peace with it. But the way things have gone in Pittsburgh this year with DK Metcalf, it's become a really, really sharp move. And moving past all that, I'm not really going to talk about the draft trades, although we did trade Sam Howell and get a little bit of extra draft value out of that, so that was nice. We were able to upgrade enough to get Riley Mills, I guess, so that was cool. But we also traded the 4th and the 5th round picks for Rashid Shaheed in a bad draft. I know people are going to say that's a lot of draft capital to give up for a rental like Shaheed is, but it's not a good draft. So you give up what you got to give up. And Shaheed has been incredibly valuable to this team since he got here, both on special teams and offensively. So that's a successful trade as well in my book. I know it's a lot of draft picks to give up, but I really don't care that much. That's a good trade. And don't forget about Clint Kubiak, by the way. Clint Kubiak one of the best offensive coordinator hires made in the league this year. This offense has gone from mediocre last year, they were like 17th or 18th in points scored, to elite in 2025. That doesn't happen without Kubiak. So you add it all up, and I think John Schneider should probably be the executive of the year. And it's been a long journey to get here, right? Like this time last year, I sat here and I said, look, he had an okay draft. The 2024 draft at that time looked okay. He made a good head coaching hire with Mike McDonald, but then he hired Ryan Grubb, and that was a disaster. His free agency last year was like an F minus. Nothing he really did in free agency last year worked. You had guys like Jonathan Hankins. You redid the Draymond Jones deal. You brought in some guys on special teams that were not useful. Rayshon Jenkins didn't really work out. Dude, there are a bunch of other guys. The linebackers we brought in, Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dodson, kind of a disaster. But he's turned it around. He's turned it around so much that I think he should be the executive of the year. The first Seahawk to win the award since 1978. And hey, I'm happy for him. I would certainly make at least the argument that he should have won it in 2013 when for some reason they took that year off. I don't know why. But he has done good work here in Seattle for a while. He's never gotten full credit for it, nor has he ever gotten full blame for some of the mistakes because it wasn't clear who had all the power. Now we know who has the power. John Schneider is clearly the guy calling the shots. And ever since he started calling the shots, he's gotten a lot more right than he has wrong. He's gotten a lot of stuff right. And there has been stuff he's gotten wrong. Even this last year, right? Like, Jonathan Hankins. He re-signed Jonathan Hankins in the offseason, right? Never played. MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, clearly a bad signing. But there's a lot going right here, and you're not going to find a better GM out there. Like, who else could win the award this year? And what basis do they have to win the award? Are you going to give it to Howie Roseman again? Are you going to give it to Howie Roseman when he's clearly, more than anything, riding off the success of his previous off seasons rather than having done anything massive in the most recent off season? Are you going to give it to Brandon Beane again when Buffalo just kind of stays at the same level they've been at for years? Are you going to give it to Snead in LA when most of the reasons why they're good right now are because of decisions he's made in previous off seasons and previous seasons? Doesn't really seem to me that there's another guy that makes sense. Maybe you could go to Denver. Maybe you could look at Denver, but again, what did they do in the most recent offseason that elevated them? Isn't this just kind of like some of the things they did in previous off seasons blossoming? I kind of feel like the answer is yes. So, yeah, I think it should happen. And I really did want to make this video before we got to the end of the season here. I know that we're thinking about other things right now, but I did want to make this video because, yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know if I believed in him. I never called for him to be fired. I never said I wanted his head. I never said that I thought that we need to get a different GM definitively, but I wasn't sure if he was the guy. And he has been the guy for the last basically calendar year. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Maybe another video later today, but if not, I will see you guys soon. We got a big game tomorrow. Let's go win it, and let's finish this regular season the right way. All right. Go Hawks. See you guys soon.